Hello everyone, it's Cynthia from Grow. This afternoon I am going to be recording a Yin Practice, which will take around 35 minutes. For those of you who practice Yin, we'll be doing 3-minute holds. So if you want to hold longer, then please go ahead and do so. I'll be introducing each pose in the usual way, so I will talk about the targeted area, then I will mention a couple of poses and variations, and then I will demonstrate. So again, for those of you who do practice Yin Yoga, do the pose that you usually do, or try a new one, but don't wait for me. You can just come right into the posture. Have fun with the practice. I'm missing you all. I hope that I will see you not virtually as soon as we can. So, yes, let's begin. We're going to start with hamstrings. We're going to start with half butterfly or half frog. So hamstrings, the back of the thigh. I'm going to start with half butterfly. Setting the timer, bringing my foot into my inner thigh, inner leg at some point, sitting up tall and taking a little turn towards my extended leg, exhaling and folding forward. Staying here, or perhaps straightening the back. The head can hang or the head can be lifted. You check in with your neck. If hamstrings are a thing for you, you could bend the knee and support it in some way. So a block, a blanket. I haven't talked about props, but I will. Just wanted to get us going here. The other thing here could be to support this knee. On this side, I'm perfectly comfortable like this, but if I wasn't, I could slide something in here. So alternative pose is half frog. So just taking this foot in behind, bending the leg in the other direction, same idea of folding forward, rounding, or straighter back, and holding the pose. So 3-minute hold. If for any reason you're feeling like it's too long, something's not feeling right, please come out, come all the way up, maybe try the other version, or take a break and come back in. Always taking care of the body. Never feeling pain. It can be challenging, to be sure. Just breathing, noticing the sensation in this sensation-based practice. Just about 30 seconds to go. And release slowly from the pose, rolling up through the spine. Perhaps just landing back on your hands. Knees can be bent. And rocking side to side, releasing the back, releasing the pelvis from that forward bend. So taking all the time you need in the transition. In the way that we are presenting these videos, you can stop them at any time. And take a break or go right to the next side. Side 2. Setting the timer. So on this side, I do use a support underneath my bent knee. I'm going to take my little turn, exhaling, just falling forward. I can round my spine, I can keep my spine straighter. So in this practice this afternoon, I will be using a block as my prop. So for those of you who have bolsters, cushions, go ahead and use them as you normally would. And I'll mention them as we come to different poses where we might traditionally use something like a bolster. And for a block, you know, a large book. So as the minutes, the seconds pass, and the body changes, you can adjust, maybe a little turn, perhaps adding a prop if things are becoming too intense. Or just checking in, noticing what's happening with the body. Just a natural breath. So for those of you who practice with me, you're maybe missing some of the music that I usually play, or maybe you're finding your own playlist for your practice. And the bell has rung. Coming out of this pose easily as you can. Removing props, finding any movement that feels nice, releasing. Or maybe finding just a little bit of stillness. And then as you're ready, we're going to come into the next posture. This posture is for glutes, IT band, so outside of the hip and outside of the thigh. Couple of different variations here. First one being sleeping swan. So sleeping swan, you can start in table. And I'll slide my left knee to my left wrist, stretching my right leg out. So moving, I'm going to turn around so you can see. Moving this front foot forward enough so I'm getting this stretch back in this area. And then from here, I might come down onto my elbows, or all the way down. Just one thing to remember in this pose is that, sorry, I'll stay in it for a second, is that there's a lot of compression on this bent knee, this front knee. So that just means things are pushing against one another. Compression is beneficial, but you do not want to have any pain, aggravate anything that might be going on. So for that reason, a variation, or a second pose, I guess I would call it, for this area, is figure 4, with the foot on the wall, on a chair. Not sure if you can see me here, but I've just got my foot up and then crossing the other leg over. Again, stretching that buttock area, IT band. Enjoy. Stretching the targeted areas, maybe feeling that compression in the knee, feeling compression in the forehead if your forehead is landed on the ground, on the floor, on your mat. And Sleeping Swan is also a good posture in which to use props. So, you might be using a bolster, a cushion, a block underneath the chest as you come down, underneath your forehead, perhaps underneath this back hip, that targeted area, if you're feeling a lot of stress there. If you just feel like you'd like to be more symmetrical. So play with the props. Use what seems appropriate in the circumstance. As always, taking your time, getting into a pose. Taking your time coming out of a pose. Saved by the bell. So here, you might just stretch the legs back. Get some movement in the spine. Or as always, some stillness, some rest. And we'll come into side 2. So, knee to wrist, stretching the other leg back. You could stay up with extended arms and in a full swan position, or come partway or all the way down. Figure 4 on the other side, foot on the wall, crossing the other ankle across the knee. As you come into the pose, notice what's going on. And don't be afraid to change. Sometimes with these poses we'll do one on one side and one on the other. For Sleeping Swan, for stretching out this area, this hip area, I often do Sleeping Swan on one side and Figure 4 on the other. So, experiment. We have time, even more time than usual in our Yin classes. I know we play with time a little bit. And we're happy that we have the time to explore, to notice what works, what doesn't work. So maybe, we could look at this gift of time, of being able to make a choice, of doing yoga. I do have a list here because I don't want to go over time. As I said, this practice is going to be about 35 minutes. You can make it as long as you want. You can shorten it up. 35 minutes might be just right, for a practice in the afternoon. If you're able to go for a walk and maybe then come home and just do a little bit of yin. Could be a nice afternoon. 30 seconds to go. And there. So ease out of the pose. Pay attention to the knee, whichever pose you're doing. Now, some of you at home, if you're people who have practiced with me or with other Yin teachers, I'm not the only one, obviously. There are many, many lovely Yin teachers in Fredericton. But so, I guess I should say, if you practice Yin and you prefer a seated version to stretch the hip, shoelace or square as we used to call it, so a tight or loose shoelace, then by all means, practice that. Practice all your variations. I'm just giving very, very bare bones choices here. Alrighty. So, back bend is next, and we've got a couple of choices here. First one being supported bridge, second one being seal. So I'm going to go ahead and show seal. As always, if you know the pose that you want to do, just come into it. So, with seal, I am going to start here in what we would call Sphinx. Obviously, a beautiful alternative to seal. It can be very, very minimal in terms of the extension of the spine. You can come higher, you could come into this sort of version, or into what we might call full seal. So extending the spine. You can see that my shoulders are right up in my ears, which is, it's fine. Other people like to push up more. I really am not built for that. So I kind of hang out here. I could let my head hang or have it lifted up. So something like this. I'll just show you the side version. So it could be here. Oh, it does feel good. Or here, which also feels good. Or here, which is quite enough for some people. So, Second pose for a back bend. I'm a huge back bend fan, so I might do both of them, you know? Who knows? Wouldn't. So, block by my side, or book, or whatever you're using here. It could actually be a softer prop. I have a block, so, and this bottom height is good for my spine. You might like something lower or something higher. Check it out. So the block underneath my pelvis, and it is not cutting up into my waist, into my lower back, but I've got a really nice base of support here, and I could go stretching my legs out. I like my arms about here, but you could have them overhead or anywhere in between. Part way out. So again, try the different variations and decide for yourself. Coming out of this pose, we're just going to press the feet, lift the hips, slide the block out. And you're done. Or you will be done. So, a few more seconds to enjoy the back bend. All right, and the bell has rung. So, coming out of this pose, you may like to round the spine, or either of these poses, sorry. Coming out of the back bend, maybe I'll speak more generally. You might like to round the spine, come into child's pose or folded pose with knees to chest. A little rocking, windshield wipering of the legs, whatever works for you. And again, maybe just a little bit of rest in between the poses or in between the sides. So moving on, we are going to be doing a pose which stretches the front of the thighs, so a quad stretch, and as well has a back bend built into it, one side, an asymmetrical pose here. Since we are pretty much not symmetrical beings, many of our poses are asymmetrical as well. So, cattail or half saddle. Now I know that some of you practice full saddle with or without props. Full saddle is sitting like so, feet on the inside or the outside, and then coming all the way back. So if that is your practice, go for it. I'm going to demonstrate, first of all, half saddle. So, sitting with my legs straight, I'm going to bring my right foot out to the side. Set the timer. So, I have my foot sticking out, other people have their foot kind of folded under. Totally up to you, you'll know which one you like. So from here, I could be having something behind me, a bolster or a cushion, or not. I'm just going to come. For me, I come all the way down. And notice that my knee is not resting on the mat. It's sticking up quite far. That feels good to me. I have no pain in my inner knee. I'm getting a good stretch here. And you might be able to see I'm in quite a nice back bend on the same side. So that is half saddle. Something could be underneath the knee as well to support it. I should see if I can reach. There we go. Something like that can also feel good. Just supporting this knee. So, alternative pose is cattail. This one's a little bit more complicated, but really think of it as a quad stretch. So I'm lying on my belly. I have got my right arm extended. My left knee and left hand come in towards my chest, like my left knee is like a kickstand. I'm going to bend my right knee, left hand. I'm going to grab my foot. Opposite hand to foot is what you should think of. So, cattail. Stretching the thigh, back bend, maybe even a little twist. And that feels pretty good to me. For those of you who do use a strap in this pose, you know, if you have one, that's great. If not, just some tie or scarf, whatever you've got around. You know, lengthen your arms. So, I think that's all I want to say about that pose. So as always, maybe you like one pose on one side and one pose on the other. Less than 30 seconds to go. And release. Give yourself a little break here. There's a lot going on in all of these poses. Energy is moving. The breath in and out of the body. Maybe by this point, yin energy is starting to come in a little bit softer, quieter, and calmer. So when you're ready, side two, either half saddle or cattail. But I would like to show a couple of variations. Obviously, we're looking for the quad stretch. So if you wanted to just lie on your front, reach back, grab your foot, use a strap, same hand, same foot. I'm still extending my spine here. And I'm getting a nice stretch in the front of my thigh. So there is that. So just a couple of general words while you're enjoying this pose. With Yin Yoga in particular, it's what I'm teaching this afternoon. We're not worried about how things look, if we're doing it right or wrong. The bottom line is that it's a sensation-based practice. When we know the target area and we're feeling either the stretch, maybe we're doing this quad stretch, or the compression in the back bend, when we feel those things, we know that we're doing the pose in the right way. So that's really the main thing to know. Secondly, of course, and I think I've mentioned it already, is that we should not feel any pain. There can certainly be challenges in these poses. It's something that we have to monitor, you know, self-monitor, as they say. Check in with the body, and it will tell you what's going on. You can trust it. Less than 30 seconds to go. finished with that. So come out slowly, take your time. Do what you need to do that would feel nice, nice for the body. We'll take a few seconds. Right, so inner thighs and groin. Few different choices here. So we'll start with butterfly. So butterfly, soles of the feet together. Feet can be very close in. They can be farther away. Close in, you may find that your back is straight or straight-ish, that's fine. Farther away, you may be able to come into a forward bend, or more of a forward bend. Again, it's fine, whichever you like. Another variation or another pose to stretch inner thighs is dragonfly. So we could just take our butterfly and open it up. This is also going to give us some hamstrings. So, bend your knees as much as you need to. Fold forward or keep the back straighter. Finally, and those who like it a lot, we have frog pose. So I'm going to do a sort of sideways view here. So, like a wide-legged child's pose. Don't make it very complicated. So I'm just coming down, resting my head on my hands, or maybe I have a block or a cushion. I don't know if you can see this, but my feet are, I suppose, 4 or 5 inches apart. Some people have their feet together, others are much wider. You'll know. So again, don't work through pain. Your hip will tell you if it likes it or not. And then we can vary this just by bringing the weight back and forth. Frog pose. Any of these poses can be done at the wall. So it could be feet on the wall, knees falling out, soles of the feet together, knees falling out in butterfly, or just straight legs open at the wall, as in dragonfly. There we go. So releasing from the pose. Take your time. And we'll be coming into twisted roots. So this is a twist that we do lying on the back. I just have a block beside me in case. So we start lying on your back, knees bent, feet flat on the mat. And I'm going to cross my right leg over my left.
I'm going to use actually a prop here because it works for me. And I let my legs gently fall over to the left side. And they are propped up by this block. Maybe I should switch sides. So you can see there. So from here, I'm feeling a stretch here. I'm feeling a little bit of a stretch here. I'm not really getting any compression at all that's noticeable in my knees or my legs or in my hip crease. So I'm pretty comfortable here. However, I don't need to keep my legs crossed. I could uncross them and have them stacked. Again, I would use a prop. You may just let the legs come over to the side. If I had a blanket, if I thought of it, I might put a blanket in between my knees here. So arms, I like them out to the side. They could be anywhere. And my head could turn in either direction or just soften upward. A minute to go on this side. So twisting, we're bringing the shoulders and the hips out of alignment. If your shoulder is lifted a little bit off the floor, that's fine. You may want to place something underneath it. With legs, obviously, you could use the block or a cushion or whatever you've got. So again, not symmetrical beings. We don't need to be perfectly symmetrical in our postures. And just a few seconds. Side two, when you're ready. Maybe a little stretching, wiggling, adjusting in between. And then just finding your version of twisted roots on the second side. Yin is a cooling practice, quiet and calm, so if by this time you haven't grabbed your socks and blankets and sweaters, you just think about doing that. Have another few seconds to go.
So that is the end of our active practice. I would encourage you to grab a blanket and a cushion, give yourself your Shavasana, and enjoy that. Maybe even make it a little bit longer than usual. I want to thank you all for doing everything that you're doing, keeping yourselves and each other safe. And I close with the phrases of loving kindness to ourselves, to our families, our friends, to all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be healthy and strong. May all beings live with ease. Namaste.